Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast. Money in the Bank is just a few short weeks away, and WWE is full steam ahead in getting that pay-per-view set up. And they had some bright spots this week with, I think, Kofi Kingston's best promo he's had in perhaps his career against MVP. Matt Riddle continues to shine. Shayna Baszler continues to lose. And Nikki starts to pander to the Toddler audience. So we're going to talk about that and so much more right after this. Real men, real experiences, real entertainment. Listen to Priceless Conversations only on YouTube, where host Travis Price and co-host Andrew Procarione speak with guests about everything from Bigfoot and the paranormal life experiences to stocks and modern events. Search Priceless Conversations on YouTube. Priceless content, priceless stories, and priceless conversations. It will be wild.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah. I said give me a hell yeah.
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast. 3 weeks until Money in the Bank and just 3 weeks until fans are back. We are counting down here like everyone else, I'm sure. We can all say goodbye to that Thunderdome era, the Performance Center silence era. We all can't wait, and it's going to be just awesome to have fans back. And this past Monday night, boy, did we get a show that I wish fans were here for. I've said that so many times I can't count now, but particularly with Drew McIntyre's victory on Monday night, I do wonder what would have transpired from the fans. Now, do I think that that victory is going to lead to Drew McIntyre ultimately winning? No. The answer is a solid no. It's not impossible, but I will tell you right now, unless WWE wants to turn Drew McIntyre heel, they will be smart to keep him the hell away from the briefcase. I will be most interested when he has his hope spot, because everyone in that match does. I will be very interested to hear what the crowd does with him when he's ascending that ladder and he has his time to shine, and it's his turn to get close to the briefcase, put his fingertips on the briefcase, and someone interrupts and stops him. But that moment, those moments of him ascending the ladder when everyone's down, I want to know what the crowd's going to do. I have my suspicions that there will be a significant amount of booing. I really do. I understand this will be the first time for WWE, other than WrestleMania, that they'll have fans being able to embrace with McIntyre. But I think that goodwill right now is worn away, and that embrace, that need for the embrace with McIntyre is eroded pretty significantly, to the point where I don't think fans are clamoring to see McIntyre and go, oh my God, it's been 18 months. We've been waiting so long to give you this virtual hug. No, I think that he's been in the title picture for so long that fans will boo, and they will boo loudly and proudly when McIntyre ascends that ladder. So that is the most interesting part of it to me. And honestly, what else is Drew McIntyre going to do at the pay-per-view? I mean, they got to fill a spot. McIntyre probably otherwise would have not been on the pay-per-view. And he has a very low chance of winning. So other than that, I mean, I'm fine with actually Drew winning. And that triple threat was so good, by the way. And it's just, I think all of our hearts ache that AJ Styles is being relegated to the tag team division. And with a lack of star power as it is, that you have a star to the magnitude of AJ Styles and he's being hidden in a tag team, it seems criminal, doesn't it? If this is all for the benefit of Omos, I would say that's probably not worth it at this point. I think that having AJ Styles in a singles role with Omos, if you still want to keep them together, you can, but Omos could be his bodyguard, his heavy, his heater, whatever name you want to give him, and also continue to build Omos instead of having them as tag team champions. I don't like it. I really don't. I don't like AJ stuck in this team, especially with the lack of talent, right? The lack of main event talent right now in WWE, specifically baby faces. All right. Well, again, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Tomorrow, we will be dropping the Nostalgia Show, the Wrestling Nostalgia Show, on Patreon and on our podcast, Apple Podcast subscriptions feed. Not the free feed, but the subscriptions feed that you can sign up for 3 days. It's free. You know, do whatever you want. Listen to it. See if it's worth it. And why you should is because there's no ads at all for any of the shows we're doing. You get the exclusive Wrestling Nostalgia Show as well, and no ads. So that's pretty damn cool. As well as randomly dropping exclusive audio there too. We have our great co-host of Mimi Burris who pops in now and then and gives some thoughts on what's going on and what she doesn't cover in her AEW or highs and lows of the week. So definitely check out the Apple Podcasts on Apple and give us a rating if you have a moment as well. It really does help us. I ask that every time, and some of you take advantage of that and just completely demolish us on the review, which is cool. I honestly don't care. Like it's the internet. You're gonna get it. And if you want to also support the show, of course, there's Patreon where you can get merchandise, mugs, you can get t-shirts, you get exclusive shows that are not even on the Apple Podcast subscription, like What If with Anthony DeMarco and myself. And you also get a shout out on the show. You get a Discord server that you can get onto every pay-per-view, which is a blast. It's a little VIP area for patrons only that is available on the moment you join Patreon, and everything's ad-free. Like every show we've ever done is ad-free. So that's my pitch to you as a podcaster. Now, as we get into Monday Night Raw here, I want to say that I really do think that when fans come back, the product will improve, because the fans are what they're like the mold, the welder, so to speak, right? They mold what the product is in general. Now, does Vince ram down things that fans don't like and he thinks he knows better? Yeah, he does. You want an example of a 6-year example? Roman Reigns' babyface experiment failed, and yet he thought that would work. So there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, I think WWE does listen. They do have an ear, and I do believe that they will use that ear and make sure that they are giving the fans what they want, because they have really low ratings right now, especially Monday Night Raw. Ratings are just abysmal. SmackDown is doing fairly well. It's also a better product and a shorter show. And you have Roman Reigns, the biggest star in wrestling right now. But I do believe that when fans come back, things should improve. And I have that hope. Now, last Monday night, I was actually down on the product much more than most of you. I thought it was not a great show. I know it was structured around the Money in the Bank qualifying matches and a night of upsets. This week, I am higher on the product. I really do believe that this week was much better. Now, that doesn't go without its flaws, as every show does. And I as I say, open the show talking about with Drew, I don't look at Drew winning as a flaw. I really don't. Because, again, what are you going to do with Drew at the pay-per-view? Some of you may say, and I would agree with you, that Drew shouldn't be on it. He should just take time off. Maybe even from now until the fans come back. I'd be fine with that too. I agree. Even just a short break like that, I think would do him well. But I don't think WWE, with its insanely thin star babyface roster, that they can afford to give Drew time off. That's the problem. So it becomes a vicious circle, because you have a thin babyface, top babyface roster, and you can't afford to expose it any more than it is, because after Drew McIntyre, it drops all the way to Kofi Kingston, or even maybe Matt Riddle at this point. That's a big drop. I mean, that's not like a one baby step down, two baby steps down. That's like a giant leap down a cliff in terms of star power. So when you do that, and you can't afford to keep him off the show, then you risk overexposing him, which they've done. And it's a vicious cycle, because then, well, you're overexposing him and the fans are getting tired of him, but you still can't afford to take him off. And it becomes this like round and round we go. So I don't think they'll take him off TV, even though that would be the best damn thing for him. Just, again, take a 3-week break and come back the Monday Night Raw after Money in the Bank. But that's wishful thinking. And I didn't look at this victory for Drew as a negative. I didn't. I know that some of you blew up on Twitter. Mr. DJ Kuzmo blew up. And I get why. I understand. I get it. People were saying, no. And they want AJ. Or they want Riddle. But here's the thing. Those are tag teams. Those are tag team stories right now. Right? You have Riddle and Randy, who are always in a rocky state, where Orton, you never know when he's going to strike or drop the RKO on Riddle, which hopefully never happens. Well, I shouldn't say never. I hope it doesn't happen in the short term. Maybe in time for SummerSlam. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they see longer term money in this. We'll have to see. But my point is, AJ and Omos are tag team champions. They are locked into that tag team division. As much as we want to see AJ Styles on his own and potentially win the briefcase and get into the match at least, it's not realistic given the program that he's in with the Viking Raiders. Isn't that crazy to say? I can't believe I just said that sentence. But with Omos screwing the Viking Raiders out of their battle royal, which, how does that happen, by the way? Right? It's just like when in a Royal Rumble match, when somebody who's not a participant can eliminate those who are still legal competitors. It's just not logical. And Omos does this here with the Viking Raiders, and you just know right off the bat that there's going to be a tag team title match probably with those two, and the Viking Raiders. Or I'm sorry, yeah, the Viking Raiders and Omos and AJ, and maybe Riddle and Randy. Right? Maybe it's a triple threat tag team match. What if it is? Maybe it is. I don't know. But the whole point of this is why I'm not disappointed, and it actually makes sense, as much as I would have geared towards Riddle winning this, or even AJ, anybody but Drew at this point. It makes sense that they did, because storyline wise, they're handcuffed. They're handcuffed right now. And Drew is the only guy that's on his own. The other two competitors are part of tag teams. So that's why. And I would have loved to have heard the crowd reaction last night, though, let me tell you. I would have loved to have heard what the crowd would have done and said with Drew McIntyre getting the victory. Even the pumped-in crowd noise was not overwhelming. It was kind of lukewarm at best. So I do wonder, and I said that at the beginning, of what does the crowd do with Drew at Money in the Bank? They need to be very careful, unless their intention is to turn him heel. They need to be very careful. So that's what I thought about that. Otherwise, an outstanding match with all three men. The kick from Riddle into the steel steps, I mean, he sold that very well. Like he broke his foot. And then he comes back, tapes it up. I loved him throughout the show, acting like Randy Orton. It reminded me a little bit of Eugene in 2004, if you guys remember Eugene. If you don't, just Google it. Obviously without the special needs part of it. But him just imitating his favorite guy, which is Randy. The letter that he wrote in like marker or crayon to Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce, talking that, or pretending that he was Randy Orton who wrote the note. I mean, it's good stuff. It is. And I got to say, Riddle is impressing me more and more in the ring every week. And on camera, I mean, he's in multiple segments. This guy's a big part of Monday Night Raw. A big part of it. And yes, if you guys go back just a couple of months before RK Bro was a thing, and you can try to come back at me with my own words about how much I hated Riddle, that he was eye rolling, that he was just unwatchable, that he was just this frat boy, pot loving D-bag. I said it and I stand by it because at the time he was. And then in steps magic, in steps the yin to the yang of Randy Orton with Matt Riddle. It's a perfect pairing, and it is exactly what Riddle needed. It's exactly what Riddle and Randy, I think they needed one another at that moment. Riddle was floundering as this comedy character that was just kind of like, whatever, bro. Like that's what it was, and I couldn't stand it. Randy was coming off of The Fiend. It was a perfect combination at the perfect time, and I hope that they string this out as long as they possibly can without driving things into the ground like they normally do. So I'm kind of asking for the perfect storyline with these two. I understand I'm not going to get it. I know that it's going to eventually, I'll eventually start complaining about something, as wrestling fans just do. But as it currently stands, it has been such a bright spot on Monday Night Raw. And what's even more amazing is that Riddle on his own this week shined. Riddle without Randy. I know he was channeling Randy, but on his own, it was just great to see that he can survive on his own without Randy being there. It's good stuff, and he can back it up in the ring. He is so good in the ring. I am really becoming a big fan of Riddle inside the ring, even more than I was before. He's so physical. I love his style that you can't see through it, meaning it doesn't look like an act or a performance or some type of gymnastics. It looks like a combat athlete engaged in a fight. And it's so enjoyable right now to me with Riddle and Randy, even with Randy not there this week, which is crazy. So I wanted to start off with some praise. And yes, you guys can come back and say, oh, coming from the guy that trashed Riddle for weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah, you're damn right I did. You're damn right I did. Because he deserved it, and it was awful. And this is when magic can happen, and lightning strikes, and when lightning strikes, you catch it in a bottle, and that's what they've done right now. Things can change, and I stand by it. So I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to Randy Orton returning next week, presumably, to see how he interacts with Riddle losing on his behalf. I'm sure Randy will say, I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. I can take care of myself. And just being Randy Orton, I think he's not going to be really thankful for Riddle trying to do what he did. I don't think he will. That's not Randy Orton. He's not going to give him a big hug. But I'm in this storyline, man. I'm just in it, and it's good stuff. Or as Vince would say, it's good, you know what. Now, the one thing I will say about McIntyre, while I understand his WWE's decision, it is the least interesting option. There's no doubt that this is the least interesting thing they could have done, of making McIntyre the final competitor in the Money in the Bank ladder match. No doubt. But beyond that, beyond the fans' just exhaustion of him being in the title picture for 18 plus months, I really would advise them against him giving history lesson promos every time he gets on the mic. I don't know who or what or why this trend was sparked with him. Perhaps it was somebody mentioned to creative, hey, we got to start doing something a little different with Drew. He's starting to look repetitive out there with his promos. Let's have him talk about Scottish history, right? No, let's not do that. I don't care if it came up once, even twice. Like twice would have been like, okay, but it's a trend. It's a pattern now with McIntyre. I don't need him giving me history lessons, because he doesn't tie them in well anyway. He doesn't do a good job of weaving that story, war general story, whatever Saving Private Ryan story he wants to give us. into his actual story of wrestling and why he's telling the story to begin with. He just does it to try to be different. That's how it comes off. It comes off like he's just trying to do something different. And while I respect when talent and creative and management want to try something different, sometimes you don't need to do it for a long time to realize it's not working. And right now, it is not working. When he starts going into his history spiel, I audibly and visibly sigh when he's doing this now. It doesn't do anything for his character. He's not good at tying it in. If he was at least masterful at tying in whatever story he was talking about, as much as I would go, oh, why are we talking about war stories again? At least I would go, oh, I get the analogy. Oh, this army didn't give up, or they came from behind, or they used the element of surprise. Nope. It's just war story and then back to wrestling. It's story time and then back to wrestling time. There's no smooth transition. It's not good for his character because there's no reason for it other than trying to transparently just, quote, do something different. It's not a good look. Stop it. Just stop. Please. Please. McIntyre's already in a very precarious situation, especially in a babyface role. So I will just leave it there. Okay. So let's see. I'm trying to think of something positive here. Look at something positive. Let's see. Charlotte Flair. I guess we'll go to this because I got some things that, as always, are not on my top favorite thing lists for Monday Night Raw. Charlotte Flair, Tamina, and Natalya defeat Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and Rhea Ripley via pinfall. So Flair, what I liked about this is the match ended without a finish and not a roll-up. I bet you know what I think? I bet you that creative pitched this ending as in a roll-up, and someone finally said, no, guys, can we just end this in a way that's definitive and not cowardly? And I think they compromised here by not having Charlotte hit her finish for the victory, but rather using a move she's used 150 times, more than that, probably like 15,000 times in her career, that has never ended a match ever, to my knowledge. But it's believable that it could. We've just been conditioned that a move like that doesn't end a match. But when you look at it from a logical perspective, someone shoving their boot in your face using all of their body weight, easily a knockout shot. Just like a DDT should be a knockout shot, just like a super kick should be a knockout shot. So I'm all for this happening more often. Is anybody else, does anybody else feel that same way? That sometimes a move that is believable when you look at it from a logical perspective to end a match, and it does, I think that would add so much of that believable element to wrestling that's missing. And it would also create that feeling that Vince is always after for any show is anything could happen. You want to feel like anything could happen. Well, I think if you want to achieve that goal in part, then you should use this once in a while. I'm not saying every match, every show, but throw it in every couple of weeks with somebody. It doesn't have to be with the women or Charlotte specifically. It can be with anybody. They don't have to hit their finish every time. Now, a finish is extremely important for a lot of different reasons. And I would argue a finish should remain a finish and not just start to do moves that are commonly used as finishes. But I think this is something that they should use a little more often to create that feeling that, quote, anything can happen that Vince is always after. And yet we know that it is more often than not far from the feeling that anything can happen. Rather, we know when the commercial breaks are coming, i.e. people get thrown to the outside of the ring. And we have somebody say, can so-and-so get back in the match as Raw rolls on, right? I mean, if no one went to the outside of the ring, I've said this before, I don't know if they'd be able to go to commercial break. What would they do? I mean, if no one ever got thrown to the outside of the ring, the producer would probably be like, "Oh, guys, we got to go to commercial. We got to go to commercial. What do we do? What do we do?" You know, I mean, they need somebody to go to the outside of the ring to go to commercial. So when you talk about the feeling of anything can happen on this show, that I think is far from the truth right now. But this is a small thing that I'm sure is going to go overlooked, and it's not going to be reused for a while, and the roll-up will be back. But I appreciate that a boot to the face is like, hey, you know, cool. Okay, it ended the match. Okay. So I'm also fine with them winning. And Rhea Ripley, by the way, this is a mess of a women's division. You have Rhea Ripley, who I would assume is a heel. I would assume that fairly solidly. I mean, pumped in crowd noise is generally boos. I think they finally found a path for her to go down with just being this entitled, obnoxious, just goth-looking girl, right, or woman. At least to the untrained eye, that's what she appears as. And I'm fine with it because I think she's better suited for the heel role. And she attacked Charlotte from behind after the match with the chop block. And that, I mean, there's no other way to frame that other than that's just what heels do. So Rhea Ripley as a heel, if this is a definitive track, is a good thing. I actually want to see Charlotte Flair beat the holy hell out of her. And then probably she's not going to win the title, but I think that, as we all know, Becky Lynch is very close to returning. Perhaps she shows up and maybe the Monday Night Raw after the pay-per-view and confronts Rhea Ripley. Because I think Becky Lynch is a great SummerSlam main event for the women. And yeah, they could probably throw in Charlotte Flair, who's famous for just being shoved into the match for the sake of putting Charlotte Flair in another title match. You know what? I'm a big Charlotte Flair fan, but I guess I'm still bitter about WrestleMania 35. All right. But my point is, Charlotte, who's, I guess, a heel, is with Tamina and Natalya, who are baby faces, and Rhea Ripley, who's a heel, is with two baby faces of Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. I guess they're, I don't know. This is weird. This is just weird. All right, let's see here. Going on here. We also got, and here's where things kind of take a little bit of a turn. Okay. Doudrop and Eva Marie defeat Asuka and Naomi. And this was not on Hulu, mercifully. So here's what I'll read it to you, that those of you that also didn't see this and watched the Hulu version like myself. So this ended when Doudrop pinned Asuka. Eva Marie claimed Doudrop abandoning her mid-match last week was a rookie mistake. And Marie tried to do the same at this match, but Doudrop still got the win after a running crossbody on a seated Asuka. After the match, Marie took to the microphone to announce herself as the winner. Oh, boy. Well, how about you have some self-respect, have some self-dignity, and actually announce your name as Piper Niven or some other name that doesn't reference your body shape? I mean, that's what they're doing here. Doudrop is a play on the shape of her body. Like, why? Are we going to do this to Nia Jax too? I mean, come on, guys. Can we just, if you're going to make this woman a legitimate athlete, can we just drop this now? Just drop the Doudrop name. Boy, I guess pun intended. But for real, we should. If you're going to make this woman a real athlete and a real competitor in the division, why are you already starting her in the hole? It doesn't make sense. And if all this is for what, Eva Marie to never compete? Is that her gimmick? That's not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick. I don't want her here, even as a heel, as a good heel. I don't care how good she is if she's not going to compete in the ring. I understand fans get frustrated with it, but there reaches a point where you're just like, can we just get rid? If you're not going to actually use her in a match, then please get her out of here. I was really hopeful for Eva Marie too. I really was, that she'd come back, and you saw her training in the ring in those videos, and nope, Nope. Okay, Ricochet versus John Morrison ended in a double countout. This was also not on Hulu. After a lengthy match, Ricochet hit a dive on Morrison as he was behind the ringside barrier. Neither man made it back to the ring before the referee's count of 10. Okay. So this program continues. And how can you go wrong with these two? How can you go wrong with Ricochet and John Morrison? I mean, you know you're going to get an amazing matchup with these two. So, alrighty, let's see. Jackson Riker defeats Elias via pinfall in a strap match. Riker was shown backstage throughout the show whipping himself with the strap. What? Maybe I should see that. I missed that. That was not on Hulu, but I usually try to watch the clips. That I didn't see it. I don't understand this, and nor does anyone really care about this. I mean, they just don't. Okay, a bright spot to me was Kofi Kingston and MVP. Now, Bobby Lashley wasn't there this week. Obviously, Randy Orton took the week off. And I thought this was really good by both men. Really good by both men. And when you saw Kofi Kingston in the ring with just a sweatshirt on, just how refreshing was that? How refreshing was it to see Kofi Kingston not in his just childish outfits, making childish jokes, playing games as a grown man? How nice was that? It was just so refreshing. Now, does that make me a Kofi Kingston fan? No. The answer is a resounding hell no. I am not a Kofi Kingston personality fan. I think he is self-entitled at times. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like he is. I think his arguments at times are weak, that he's here just, to surround himself with friends and family. What does that have to do with anything? It's not an answer. So I'm not a Kofi Kingston fan at all. And it was interesting too, obviously, with MVP saying the name Brock Lesnar, saying to Kofi, when Bobby gets you at Money in the Bank, and we're looking forward to it, he's going to make what Brock Lesnar did to you look like child's play. Clearly, this is a wink and a nod to the Beast on his way back. There's no other way about it. They have now escalated to actually saying his name on air. So, I think we can safely assume, just as MVP said, that Kofi Kingston is in no way any threat to Bobby Lashley. And that's the truth, because it's real. And MVP saying that they're just looking through him, looking past him, that he's not anyone that he should ever be concerned about. And then Kofi went on to say, that's your mistake. Yeah, but well, if that's your mistake, why are you letting him know that's your mistake so that they do take you seriously? I mean, I don't know, I'm getting too deep into it. But MVP, I think, did nicely sparring with Kofi. And to Kofi's credit, as much as I can't stand his character at all, he did a nice job defending himself. He talked about last week with Xavier Woods, and he vowed to beat Lashley. And MVP said he was going to fight Kingston at one point, but his knee injury stopped him because he wasn't, quote, cleared for combat yet. And Kofi then, of course, laid out MVP with Trouble in Paradise. This was a really good segment, though. I mean, I still want to see Kofi get his ass kicked. I mean, to me, this is not heelish to me. I mean, MVP speaks the truth. And if the logic for Vince McMahon on this is, well, as a heel, you can speak the truth. And if it's something the fans don't want to hear, but they know it's the truth, they'll hate it more. No. In fact, I'd challenge anybody to tell me one thing MVP said that was factually false. You can't. Kofi should be of zero threat to Bobby Lashley in the pecking order of things. They should look past him to his next real opponent. If Kofi wins at Money in the Bank, I mean, I will be speechless because there's almost no chance, because why would you do that, to drop the belt to Kofi so Brock could come back to face Kofi? No. So anyway, a really good segment for all involved here. I really thought this was nice. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the sponsor of the show. And then on the other side, we're going to get to Nikki Cross and her pandering to the toddler demographic. And that's not just a play on words. That's not just a euphemism. That is actually what she said. So we're going to get into that and, of course, a lot more right after this. Real men, real experiences, real entertainment? Listen to Priceless Conversations only on YouTube, where host Travis Price and co-host Andrew Procarione speak with guests about everything from Bigfoot and the paranormal life experiences to stocks and modern events. Search Priceless Conversations on YouTube. Priceless content, priceless stories, and priceless conversations. It will be wild.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Alrighty, well, let's jump into Nikki Cross and her match one-on-one with Shayna Baszler. And we all, I think, can say that we have Shayna Baszler in a similar situation of AJ Styles, albeit Shayna's been in this particular situation for a much longer period of time. But Shayna Baszler, we all know, is a star that is being handcuffed and ceilinged by being in a tag team. Why she's still even associated with Nia Jax, I don't understand. I was hopeful when she broke out that she'd be, in a great program, and she'd be snapping arms and all that kind of stuff that she's just so good at, and just being violent. And then she, of course, runs into the roadblock of Alexa Bliss and her magician act. And that really, really, really derailed things quickly. As great as it was, as quickly as it started, it came crashing down around us with the whole Lily stuff. And then she's kind of still in a tag team with Nia and loses last week to a roll-up. And then, lo and behold, this past week with good old Nikki Cross. Good old feel-good, if I can do this, anybody can do it. I want to inspire people. The whole rigmarole of the transparent, just disgustingly sweet babyface promo that it is just so off-putting to me. I cannot stand this. You have the same thing. Let me tell you something. When you have the baby faces giving the same message, and they're all about sending their messages in wrestling, they're certainly not scared of doing that or saying that. But let's take a look at a few people, right? If you don't know what my brain is concocting right now, we have Nikki Cross saying, "I want to inspire people that you can do anything and let your inner self out and be who you are." Sounds similar to, I don't know, Bianca Belair, who is constantly talking about every time she gets on the mic. And look, I think she's had a much better run than Rhea Ripley. She feels like a champion. I love her as champion. But this incessant need to talk about how I want to inspire people and people couldn't keep me down. And I hope that I am inspiring little girls or whatever. So you have every single time Bianca Belair gets on the mic, she says that in part of her promo. And then Kofi Kingston this past week talks about how he wanted to go back to his home country and show people that anything is possible if you just believe. Well, let me give you a dose of reality, folks. just believing in something is not going to get it done. There's a little work that goes behind it. And maybe that's lost on some people. But if you just believe, and you believe hard enough and long enough, you can achieve anything too. Gosh darn. It makes me want to turn off the TV. I feel so, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only jerk that feels this way. Maybe everyone else is like, hey, nothing wrong with that. That's sending an inspiring message when we need positivity today. Well, if you want positivity, go watch Bob Ross on YouTube, or go watch Blue's Clues, or there's 100 other places to go instead of wrestling, where it should be about people competing. And by the way, Nikki Cross, who, if she wants to be a superhero, fine. And I'm sure some people love it. It's just not my cup of coffee at all. But how can she tell me, how old is she? Like 30, low 30s probably, that she's coming out to be her true, authentic self? Really? So you want to wear a superhero outfit, and you're telling me you're Ash, almost a superhero, because you put on a Halloween costume? Nope. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm fairly sure that's not how things work. I mean, I guess you're as close to a superhero as I was dressing up as a Power Ranger at 10 years old for Halloween. Almost is not the right word. Maybe she should just not be Ash, but come up with the acronym for not even close to a superhero. What are those letters? Let's see, NECTASH. So how about Necktash? How about Nikki Cross Necktash? Not even close to a superhero. Okay? How about that? How about we're going to hashtag Necktash, NECTASH, Nikki Cross. Okay? Let's get that trending, because that would be a little bit more accurate than this this woman who has been on this earth for 3 decades, and suddenly she believes that her authentic self is wearing a superhero outfit and believing that she is almost a superhero. No, you're not almost. Now, I know that some of you love this, and I'm tearing down your gimmick, which I guess you could apply to nearly every gimmick that has some kind of hocus pocus or a little bit more of a cartoon theme to it. You could do this to Alexa Bliss. I mean, you could break it down to The Fiend. I mean, like, there's things you could do, of course. Like, if you're going to break it down and just dissect wrestling, then why watch it? I understand that. But I just don't like this, this American Pie, just everything feels good. I'm so high energy. Nothing bothers me. And you know what? I'm gonna take an analogy from another great podcast, and I'll say it. I don't, it's fine. The Torch, right? One of their co-hosts said that on one of the review shows. I don't know if it was Wade or one of his co-hosts, which, by the way, they do a great job. I mean, like, they do. I have nothing against them, and they are massively successful. But I mean, they are. I mean, I listen to them. But one of them came up with a great analogy, I guess, about Nikki Cross. She's the kind of person that would applaud when a plane lands, or applaud when a movie's over. She is that kind of person. I can't stand those kinds of people. She's the person at work that would come up to you, and she's just incessantly happy, and no matter what you try to do to avoid her during the day, she would come up to try to make conversation when I just want to be left the hell alone. Like, when I'm at work, I don't want to see or talk to anyone unless I have to. I know that sounds awful, but I just have no interest in talking to people unless I have to, because I'm not there to socialize. I'm there to work and then go home and have my real life. I mean, like, I think that's how most people, not all people, view their job, is to go there to pay your bills to come home, and then you get to really live your real life by going to this other life that you just have to get through so you can fund your real life. That's how I look at it. I know some people, like, who have been shunned by this pandemic and sent home and all that kind of stuff, are just dying to get back to work so they can socialize. That is the antithesis of me. That is the complete opposite. If you want to know like who I really am, the antithesis of me would be somebody going to the office just to socialize and talk about their weekend, talk about what they did in great detail for a story I don't care about. That kind of thing. And just go on and on where you don't even need to really be a part of the conversation. You just, I mean, like seriously, there are people, we all know who they are in your life, where you don't even need to be there physically for them to have a conversation, because 99% of what they say is about them, and they throw you a bone about, you know, oh, so what'd you do this weekend? And then maybe you start to talk about it, and then they immediately cut you off and go into something else about them, right? You know I'm right. So if you are that person where you are there to socialize, yeah, we're never friends. Like, we are never going to be friends. And you know, people probably are wondering, you do a podcast, you talk for a living. Yeah, I do. To myself. In my office right now, there is nobody here at all. And yes, I have co-hosts on, and they're great, and I'm very appreciative for them, and they do an excellent job. And I bring people on, but I still get to do it through a microphone, digitally, thousands of miles away from people. It's just, I mean, I can totally relate to Brock Lesnar. If I could mimic Brock Lesnar's lifestyle of putting a 12-foot high fence around my house, privacy fence, I would. Like, I would. I'm not the kind of person, I don't want to go out and wave to my neighbor and get in a conversation. I will go out of my way to not see people in my neighborhood. And again, I'm not mean to people. I just have no interest in getting in a conversation, a superficial conversation with someone that I could be doing much better things with my time with, right? Like some people just, honestly, there are people in my neighborhood, probably in yours too, that will walk up and down your street, and you almost wonder if they're doing it just so they run into somebody to talk to. And maybe they're lonely. And you know what? I'm sympathetic to that. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't help somebody if they're in need or you know, whatever, or purposely be mean to somebody. I would not. But with the Brock Lesnar analogy, I'm tying it back to wrestling, guys. I can completely understand the need to never see someone in your neighborhood again. And I'd be fine with that. And I love my neighbors. They're all great people, at least where I live. That's not the problem. I just don't have the innate need to socialize at all. Like, I could be fine never seeing my neighbors again. So how about that for a little bit of an introspective into this completely selectively social, not antisocial, but selectively social podcast host here. So not that you needed to know, nor do you probably care. So let's move on to a little bit more of wrestling, guys. So that all stemmed from the Nikki Cross character. I just really expanded that way more than many of you probably even care to listen to. So, but Shayna Baszler takes the pinfall in this match with a, what did they say? A magistral cradle. And Alexa Bliss made her way to ringside, took out Nia Jax and Reginald via the low blow, mind you, and continues to just mesmerize people with her eyes via hypnosis, I guess. And Alexa Bliss continues to help out Nikki Cross. So Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss would be a fun little team now that they have their own established gimmicks. Again, I don't really care for the superhero stuff, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I've certainly seen worse. And, again, it's just not my flavor. However, these two together in their gimmicks would be much better than them on their A Moment of Bliss drinking coffee show that they were doing last year before Nikki or Alexa Bliss took off with The Fiend. So I think this could be a nice little pairing given their history. And I'm just concerned for Shayna Baszler more than anybody, who continues to lose match after match after match via the cradle, the roll-up, the schoolboy, whatever you want to call it. It's a roll-up. Okay, inside cradle, outside cradle, middle cradle, magistral cradle. I don't care. It is a roll-up. End of subject. So, Akira Tozawa, I think, won the 24/7 title. That's all I'm going to say about that. So I think that covers Monday Night Raw, guys. Again, an eventful Raw with Drew getting the or the final spot in the Money in the Bank briefcase match. And before we close things out here, I do have an email from somebody. Now, I know this isn't the mailbag segment, but they asked that I read this on the Raw review. So, per their request, I'm going to do so because I'm a nice guy and very social. So, this comes to us from Brett. And Brett says, I want to say I don't listen to the mailbag. So, my question I will ask you, I would like you to answer it on the Raw review, please, and thank you. But I would like to ask you if you could choose one member of the AEW roster that hasn't been in WWE before to go there. Yes, they would probably book them like a piece of you know what, but that is beside the point. Who would you bring over? So that's question one. This is very easy to me. Very easy. And that answer to me is this guy is the best heel in the entire industry right now. MJF. And I know that he was a quick part of like being a security guard for Samoa Joe. I know that. But I'm talking about active competitor. Yeah, MJF. The guy is just brilliant on the mic, and he's a true heel, and he acts like a total a-hole on Twitter, and he doesn't ever break character, no matter what happens. We need more of that. I love MJF as a heel. So yeah, my last question would be, I would like all unofficial WWE podcast hosts to answer. Oh wow, you're calling everyone out here. Well, I'll answer, and then I'll see if the others answer. If you were a wrestler, what would your name be? Would you be heel or face? Tell me about your entrance, your moves, your gear, your promotion. What promotion you would want to go to if WWE, what brand, Raw or SmackDown and NXT? I know I'm asking for a lot. This is kind of your job. So, is it kind of my job? But thank you. And I love your show. If I could, I would subscribe to you guys on Patreon, but I'm 12. So my parents don't like me spending a whole lot of money. But I love the show. Sorry for the long email. Bye. Okay, well, I don't think we've had anyone call or write in that young, so thank you for listening. I hope you stick with us throughout your years of watching wrestling. And, okay, I can tell you what I would do, and it's a complete gimmick infringement. And I will say that this was a name that I used during a wrestling, a little backyard wrestling that I used to do. When I was 18, 19, 20 years old, my friends and I, and now again, when I was this age, the year was 2003, 2004, 2005, solidly in the Ruthless Aggression era. The Rock and Austin were gone, but Austin was still kind of there dropping stunners every week. And, as the sheriff or the GM. But we had Brock Lesnar firmly in place. We had Chris Benoit. We had Eddie Guerrero. I mean, it was still a really stacked roster. So I want to put you in that time frame as to why we were doing this backyard wrestling, because wrestling was still kind of like hot back then. And this is the ring name I used. We had a little mattress set up, and we had a little entranceway and smoke, and we were to record it, and I'd edit it, and all this kind of stuff. And this is before cell phones, or at least smartphones, I should say. I went by the name of Paul Christian, Powerhouse Paul Christian. Now, at 5'7", I don't think Vince would go for this name, because in order to earn this title, you have to be the size of Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, that stature. So I we probably wouldn't have had Vince sold on the Powerhouse part, but Paul Christian would have certainly been I think a good name. And my gimmick, I love Stone Cold, so it was kind of just a Stone Cold ripoff. I mean, I literally had a pair of jeans that I cut short enough to wear so I could have tight jean shorts on. And then I borrowed a knee brace from somebody that I had that actually had a legit knee injury, and I took it just so I could use it. It was insane. And I will not tell you how or when, but somewhere, somehow, there is a YouTube video floating around out there of this actually going down. Like, I have a video, and I will not. Somebody out there will dig it up, and that's cool. Like, it's very easy to find. It's got like a few hundred views and people making fun of me. But again, this is like 15 years ago, guys. Okay. So anyway, that would be me. I'd kind of be like a Stone Cold ripoff. That'd be my name. And so, yeah, I'll see if the other co-hosts are on board for this. But yeah, so how about that? I answered a question being a nice guy, the nice guy that I am, on air when it should have gone to the mailbag. So, all right. Well, I think that concludes this Monday Night Raw episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I didn't bore you too much with my personal stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow with Wrestling Nostalgia on Patreon and on the Apple Podcast subscription side, as well as the mailbag on all feeds, free or the paywall or whatever. It's going to be available everywhere. The mailbag is always a blast. So send in your questions to realwwepodcast@gmail.com. And you can also, of course, send in a voicemail, 518-952-0247, if you want to call us to get your voice on the air. So that's it for me tonight, guys. I hope everyone's doing well. We are just a couple days away from July, believe it or not. June goes quick. July, and then bam, on the other side of July, we're heading into fall. It's amazing, isn't it? So thank you, everybody. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time. Real men, real experiences, real entertainment? Listen to Priceless Conversations only on YouTube, where host Travis Price and co-host Andrew Procarione speak with guests about everything from Bigfoot and the paranormal life experiences to stocks and modern events. Search Priceless Conversations on YouTube. Priceless content, priceless stories, and priceless conversations. It will be wild.